Generation 8 is coming to a close, so I figured I should really sort this one out before Galar becomes irrelevant and Gigantamax you never heard from again. And oh look, there it is, Scarlet and Violet. So now it's official, you have half a year. After that, England's gone, packing it in for good. The footy, cancelled. Carlin, down the drain. Beans on toast, extinct. Time to get some real seasoning going on with that fat spicy pepper coming our way this year. I have no idea how much my opinions have changed since I did my 10 most rated back when Galar first dropped. That was changed massively, mostly forgotten about these forms if I'm honest. A lot of times they brush over how weaponized these turbo powered pets are, and then they occasionally throw in a Metagross pins down each of your limbs and teabags you for dinner. Gigantamax are peak examples of that, because they don't even try to hide the brutal reality of how much damage they do when they're 100 times the size. I mean, there's none of that fainting. Canonical bodies have been dropped. So it's about that time that I'll rank all 33 of perhaps the most lethal set of Pokemon going. The duality of man. Eevee going from the e-girl's favourite to the largest neckbeard alive. Seems more like your standard Dynamax, at least aesthetically, because even with such a little change, Eevee might just be the most dangerous giant of them all. I'm sure Gmax Gengar's got a bit of a mad kill streak on him right now, but like, did you? Look at him! You get what you pay for approaching this consensually, but no one should have to expect anything sinister going towards an Eevee. Well, that's exactly what makes it dangerous when it's this jumbo-sized, because it's not even aware of the casualties it's causing. Thinks he's going in for some belly rubs, but wipes out 2 blocks of houses on its run towards you. Eevee has canonically committed manslaughter. Oh, what does Nintendo do about it? Oh, they slap him on the front cover of games to make him a starter Pokemon. Oh, they just don't care, do they? I can barely even tell Dreadnought has a different form. I was convinced he just preferred to stand up in the stadiums, get himself a better view. Maybe he prefers that nosebleed angle. It's gone from being the bite Pokemon to giving itself a giant dog cone to stop it from doing just that. It now has a negative reach advantage with its primary weapon. You'd imagine, like the name suggests, becoming a giant Dreadnought would make this thing built for war. Warships aren't exactly the meta for causing damage in a football stadium like a fire dragon, an iron giant, or skinhead Rooney are. Even outside of the stadiums, alright, let's say it's in one of the wild areas. You got yourself a vertical hull on land. Hey boss, you haven't won any wars, have you? Well, you must be on a losing streak. How many wars you won? Oh, were you German? You made it the segment of the ship which makes it float on the seas, only to have it stand up and walk about land. Oh, is it a joke? You insulting my intelligence? I actually like Copperajah a fair enough amount, but the Gigantamax form doesn't do anything for me. Like you've turned a mythical looking late Pokedex elephant into an inflatable kid slide at a charity bake sale. Only place I'd expect to fight this thing is at the top of Womp's Fortress. Chairman Rose, actually nah, Peony. It's probably why he's not champion anymore. He must have been fuming when he found out his staple Pokemon could be put to sleep with a ground pound to the back. Never thought I'd be taking him on at the end of Sword and Shield. Thought I dispatched him early at the start of Mario 64. I'm not even saying it shouldn't exist, because out of all Pokemon that needed a Gigantamax form, Copperajah was asking for it. I'm not mugging off how strong or weak it might be or anything like that. I just reckon it would really need that protection going for it. Look, it's just surprising to me that you have 650 kilos of copper walking around the UK and they've not all been stolen by now. Corviknight's Gigantamax doesn't do too much for me either. You think showing off your reach advantage and your fancy little red feathers, do you think that's impressing anyone? I mean, all the Gmax Pokemon get a bit of tint of red in them anyway, don't they? Nah. You ain't baiting me in with the elite shadow color scheme this time, Game Freak. Corviknight definitely looks a lot better reserved. Gigantamax seems like it's overcompensating. Less is more here. The gimmick should play out like a Batman type. You have to keep up that menacing aura, like a statue that could pipe up at any second and steal any vital organ of its choosing from you. Use your body like a game of operation. So make sure you always pay the Uber. 5-star rating too, boss. Unless you want to be grinding the battle tower for enough points to buy your liver back. Duraludon is a bit much for me. A lot going on there to digest a skyscraper. Does he just sit there and like shoot people with hyper beams from the penthouse suite of the building? The dog cone, that's a big enough nerf at face value for Dreadnought. Duraludon seems genuinely differently abled as far as Pokemon go, transforming into a building. I think for an England Pokemon, this is pushing it a little bit. I mean, you get a few buildings like this in London, sure. Well, like one. But really, especially for a creature that looks like it's gonna go extinct any year now ever since Geek Bars came about, should probably gmax into a block of dirty flats. Skyscrapers aren't practical for combat. You're thinking too high there, setting yourself up as a big target. That's not the big brain play. You see, no one's going out of their way to start beef with a Duraludon Council Estate form, especially because you know he's not alone. You know, with all those stolen Copperages he's got on it. The big Beyblade snake. He's okay. I think Sandaconda is going to check off my iconic apathetic segment to these videos where I kind of have no strong opinions on it. That way you know I'm bridging into the C tier, kinda.
Sand swirls around its body with such power it could
Pulverize a skyscraper. Oh, okay, you see a man here? He was made to just prove my point, to show exactly how impractical Duraludon is.
Over 1 million tons of sand it's...
Over 1 million tons of sand is... come on, Dexter. 1 million tons. Next you'll be telling me you're ordering 4 naan. That's insane. Someone has to explain to me, where are you getting 1 million tons of sand on this moist rock of a country? Let's say when it spawns, it absorbs everything off the coast we have here. The majority of the weight making up that 1 million tons is going to be in sharp pebbles, chips, and warm cans of Carling. Hatterene just seems like the bigger means the more angry, I guess. It's not bad, but really? A Gmax? It seems more like a mildly displeased Dynamax form. Also looking like it owns about 3 pet Gmax Eevees and has Alcremie sized cakes prepared for its birthday. All around, it just seems bad for all sides. There's no winners here. Reading emotions up to a 30-mile radius and is fuming. On the prowl to catch a few GBH assault charges just for sensing a slight bit of hostility. I mean, like on brand for England, yeah, on brand. A Dracovish stubs this deformed little toe in the middle of the night 2 towns over, and that mild discomfort is gonna have Hatterene on a mission. What a weapon. Meowth isn't an amazing one, but I respect the gimmick. It makes the most sense to me for Meowth to turn giant and end up looking like one of Team Rocket's 20 million pound mean bean machine robots they use every episode. Literally everyone must have made this joke 3 years ago. Surely they must have. They're the most surface level obvious one, but I can already hear it.
Basic twerp. You're no match for our wacky waving inflatable outflating taupe, Meowth.
And like most of their insane weapons they've been using for 20 minutes once a week for like the past 1,000 weeks, very impractical. I don't know what happened first. Gmax Urshifu uses it as a heavy bag, or Machamp uses it as a barbell. Either way, that Meowth looks like it caused more damage at the Macy's parade than an actual fight. Eevee might canonically have a manslaughter charge. Hatterene definitely has some Dracovish toe stain on those tentacles. Inteleon, no ifs about it. He aims those moist deadly fingies anywhere vital. That's intent. That's a motive right there. Straight to the Gala Gulag, if it weren't already an undercover fed. Water gun going at Mach 7 speeds. Inteleon's just trying to get past Gengar's kill streak at that rate. Growing up crying for its entire infant life. It all makes sense now. Good to get all of that out of the system early. No room for emotions. Your man plays Russian roulette every time he bites his fingernails. Now though, could you imagine raising your first Pokemon? Adventuring together for years, side by side. All of that cut short because it got quickscoped by a lizard fresh out the emo phase. Inteleon might be one of my least rated final starter Pokemon going, but turning him into the biggest camper going and giving it a canonical license to kill, that's a creative move. Always knew it was a camper. Look at Drizzile in the teenage years and tell me that boy wasn't a menace back in the Modern Warfare 2 lobbies. The amount of slurs this weapon was teaching your kids back in them search and destroy lobbies.
If these vines slammed into a 10-story building, they could
Easily so easily topple it. Man, loads of the Gigamons really just want to have a crack at Duraludon, don't they? And apparently Grande Venusaur wants to have a little go at myself here.
Breathing in too much of the pollen can cause fainting, blah blah blah.
I get hay fever too badly to even be looking at this thing. If Gigantamax Venusaur were real and I were in a stadium it spawns at, the pollen this thing produces would leave me looking like a New Vegas ghoul. At first I was a bit off put by its trim, looking like it could go for another round or two with the hedge clippers, but it makes sense. Of course, the king of the Venusaur is looking like its back's a bit too over encumbered. Heavy is the bulb that wears the crown. Probably needs the permanent shade and all. The solar beams this machine surely conjures up be like looking directly at the sun with the chum bucket telescope. Carkol not turning into a full-on train, it was kind of disappointing, but I thought maybe it having a Gigantamax form, you know, maybe they were saving it for that. But yeah, nah. They played it safe, looking like the oven Alcremie got baked in. You know, in a sense, this is no different than Gigantamax Gengar. You jump into either one, the same thing happens really. You get the Coalossal form and still no train set. Your man could have looked like Reverend Lovejoy's basement, but nah. That was a weird reference. When you forget about that missed train potential though, it's not a bad shout for a Gigantamax form really. A big bucket of volcano cream. I reckon you could have had a little column A and a little column B and a little sprinkle of column cream. Make them a big furnace, mountain, volcano, all of that. And you have little carcoals on tracks, like little ghouls going around them, just swirling around them. Mounting the mountain, kinda like Dragapult's gimmick. What I'm saying is, you could have made him an extra spicy Pumpkin Hill. I don't think I really paid much attention to entire skip Garbodor form when Gen 8 came out, but looking at it now, I've got to give some ratings towards Katamari Garbodor. Few more stadiums terrorized, good few 100,000 capacity crowds sacrificed to the Katamari, and this specimen here is going to be adding Deoxys to that Katamari before you even realize. Volcano cream is one thing, but endless cream. Two very different definitions of crematorium right there. The portion size here goes a little past American XL. You're asking for that Emperor of the Sea. Give me that Big Mom. Give me that Yonko portion size. And then here comes the Pokedex weaponizing Alcremie a lot more than I was expecting. At this point, I'm half expecting McBain to come out the cake and load a few clips into my Pokemon. Cream missiles with 100,000 kilocalories. Inteleon might snipe you, but Alcremie plays the long game. That sugar's gonna get to you eventually. Not even a long game there really. That might as well be as instant as the bullet. Heard of cheat meals, Alcremie's serving up cheat lives. One of those missiles even scrapes past you. If you even catch a whiff of one of them, then you've got about one more pancake day left in you. It seems like the Gala starters got hit a little bit differently by the jumbo sauce. Their main attribute got the beef up, but they themselves, they're still a little wee action figure sized in comparison. Cinderace itself does get a bit bigger, and I'm sure it gets a much girthier big toe to punt the giant emoji ball with, but the ball is the form here mostly. Just a separate entity, like if Goku had to spawn the Spirit Bomb in the back half of Australia.
The gigantic pyro ball never misses its targets. Yeah, it better not.
That thing gets 300 feet in diameter. Cinderace better retire and stick to the halftime panels if it's missing targets with that. The Urshifus, they were already killers with those hands. When Mother Nature decides to install permanent knuckle dusters on even your toes. Your purpose as a creature, I wouldn't say it's too far off population control. Then it enlarges its frame to the point where it's powerful enough that it might not even need to use those knuckle dusters. Because those eyes, they've got that iconic, I'm a big strong boy glow to them. And they're not just there to make it look hard. The rapid style glares at you and you get tucked in for bed just for being a little bad boy. I guess your man takes the more Malcolm X approach to being Santa Claus. Yeah, nah, cold's getting a bit rare these days. Let's just cut out the naughty portion of the market straight at the source. Gmax Urshifu could filter out society. Let's just weed out all of the nonsense right now in one bulk mass staring contest. Both Appleton and Flapple Gmax into the far more efficient approach to solving world hunger, because I can't tell how much of a savior or threat this thing would be. Swimming in a big tub of honey and apple, and he's looking Mighty hungry. I always forget it's a dragon type, but dragon being super effective against dragon makes more sense than ever here, seeing how it's likely its own biggest predator. They look buzzing to be in this form. Like if Machamp Gigantamaxed into a literal beefcake dipped in a giant tub of whey, it'd be set for life. This is an upper tier one for me, which is saying a lot for how creative the idea is since Snorlax didn't even change really. Complete desk lamp of a specimen still. This only happens because the crumbs on his belly grew and they make itself a little Animal Crossing island. Snorlax got dench and ended up looking like the back half of King Kai's house. Throw a couple Copperage on there and you've got yourself a Mario 64 world right there. Would you take the strength of a mountain-sized vanilla gorilla, but you move like a mountain too. You got that one punch cardio. That's gotta be rough actually. Getting sparked out by a slab of land pointing at you. Centiskorch is a banger Galamon to begin with. You really didn't need to change a whole lot there. It may not seem impressive, it only heats up to about 300 degrees from the base form, but you have to consider 1,800 degrees spread across 75 meters of this spicy command strip. Went all in on the gimmick, all it needed to be was a giant strip of heat, and they didn't overthink it. The attack animations sell it that much more, but don't let that distract you from what this weapon really is. This isn't the kind of thing Volcanion goes house to house fixing, more the kind that burns down villages and makes main characters. Melmetal decided to take the Frankie post-time skip approach, looking like you'd need to learn a strength 8 jam to move those boulder shoulders, armed with the kind of belly piercing that dictates wars. If you were getting invaded by an army with this as the main event weapon, you better hope your country comes up with a gmax scissor with 2 giant wrenches for clamps. Loosen the nuts and hope he just spills all over the floor, from Iron Giant to boneless Peter Griffin. The hardest punch in all of Pokemon. You wouldn't even be the hardest metal in the back of most Irish vans. This unit probably causes more accidental damage picking up belly button lint than many armies have caused intentional damage. Fits Lapras perfectly to get the big boy form, seeing as it's the icon of surfing. These Lapras would be putting the SS Anne out of business. I reckon you'd have some mad party cruisers on the back of a giant Lapras. Over 5,000 people? That's more than enough capacity for a lethal boat sesh. Man, Lapras would be a top venue. Could revive the Monty Burns Casino on the back of them. The biggest bare knuckle Pokemon cage fighting pay-per-view going would be hosted here. No laws once it's swam far enough out. Anything goes in the wild west of the sea. First ever mixed species matchup. Sounds impossible, humans versus Pokemon, right? You're really gonna tell me if you put Bruno in a ring with his own Onix, he wouldn't have him straight to the Poké Center in one round. Giovanni might even book a match to put himself versus Meowth. You know, no, nothing personal. Just easy business. Of course you build up the fight hype by going against the only Pokemon who can cut a mean promo.
No one works the stick like Meowth. You might be the boss, you might be worth millions, but as soon as you step into that ring with Meowth, trust me, it's gonna be your last payday.
Too young to see Rumble in the jungle. Just the right age for commotion on the ocean. Part of me was hoping with Machamp they'd go down the Mega Alakazam route and just triple the arms. Your man in the comments here had the right idea. No legs, just 4 more arms and moves around like an uncomfortably jacked spider. But even without the extra arms, the motive is still all the same for any form of Machamp. Mass. Cultivate. He really just had to get out of the trunks. The Gmax really exposes just how underdeveloped those calves have been this whole time. Machamp got so insecure about his legs not being developed, it learned armament hacky just to hide them. Not like you'd be paying much attention to the lower half anyway, when it's looking that top heavy. Machamp's parents probably always told him,
You eat any more of them eggs, you'll bloody turn into one.
Now he's so yoked, the yolk is cracking out of his skin. 1 million tons of egg right there. Your champ took the full English breakfast a bit too literal, took the full capacity of the English egg supply. Pokemon has a lot of the world is gonna end moments, but you never really look the world's end right in the eye, quite like Eternamax Eternatus. This thing feels like it could slowly consume the planet in hand-sized chunks. A Pokemon so powerful, you're never gonna be able to own it from the looks of things. Even God you can get a hold of if you fill up the contacts on his phone. This is the one Pokemon they get a hold of you. A lesson as old as time. Do not taunt the claw. It goes jumbo-sized and uses the planets as his own personal claw machine. Big time grabber game here, because the prizes go from dodgy plushies of Baby Yoda to Premier League stadiums. Wise Elder Kingler. If this thing weren't 100 feet tall, it'd definitely be a local down Berserker's pub, probably telling you about his days in the Navy.
Yeah, I once took down about, must have been at least 100 to them dreadnoughts. Well, that's just with the small claw, oh, didn't even have to use me biggin.
I'm sure the big man himself could install a Gigantamax grog then. Inclusivity is key down Berserker's pub. All are welcomed. Makes sense he'd be a local down there. He's not quite a Scizor, but he doesn't need the wrench hands. No tools required. He can sort you out any job. Raw, hands alone. The man is hand built for a hard day's graft of loosening up those Melmetal nuts and scooping them up into the back of his scrap metal van. Another prime example as well of how Gigantamax doesn't hold back the brutal reality of these weapons being turbo-sized. A move like Water Gun guaranteed to catch a body was one thing. Now you're telling me if Kingler uses Bubble. The move Squirtle accidentally picks up on 20 minutes into its lifespan by sneezing for the first time. It's gonna melt away your body. I'd hate to be your man's barber there. Gonna need a full hazmat suit to give that beard a trim. Meowth finally reached a form where it can actually catch that Pikachu, but sadly for gmax Meowth, he's gonna need some max PRs to be lifting this Pikachu anywhere. Plus-sized Pikachu is rocket-proof. Giovanni had an easier time cloning Pokemon Jesus than he'd have lifting this unit off. Pikachu would clearly rather solve its own hunger than the world's, looking like it ate every last layer of gmax Alcremie, the only being in existence that can tank those 100,000 kilocalorie missiles. Probably a light appetizer for him. Intalion with that Mach 7 precision couldn't really miss. Cinderace with a 300 feet diameter fireball surely could never miss. But Rillaboom, armed with 6 drumsticks, surrounded by an entire forest of drums. Rillaboom's out here playing Donkey Konga expert mode. Could FC any song in existence, cause there's no chance the big man is missing anything. Holding sticks like Grappalock does the Bevs, as in, with the utmost precision. And smashing them all over the place. The finesse and fitness, actually, needed to drum with 2 sticks is impressive enough. Now you've got 6 with the strands of hair. Split the stadiums off into thirds. It could probably play for 3 different bands at the same time. Grimmsnarl can jump over the world's tallest building. Okay, alright, we get it now. No need to subtweet the man, you can just say Duraload and everyone else is doing it, alright? Another one of the big boy forms dunking on the skyscraper. 2 Gmax forms that when put together wouldn't look out of place in the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer. Speaking of kings, Kingler is one thing, but I don't envy Gigantamax Grimmsnarl's barber. That trim would end up being your legacy. Your life's work would be completing a full body skin fade on this. Some barber's creation of Adam is waiting right there. My headcanon here is that Grimmsnarl itself didn't gain any mass. It just had its body hair grow out to a colossal length. Still one of my favorites here for going from a side quest giving goblin to an absolute demon. About as end of the world looking as Eternatus is. Snorlax might be passable as a Mario 64 world, but Gigantamax Blastoise is looking like a Mario Galaxy level, about 30 bullet bills at a time stored up, just begging to fulfill their 10-second lives. That classic if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Trust the process. They gave it the Mega Form and said, hey, let's give him more cannons. They gave it a Giga and they said, hey, let's give it more cannons. So much firepower, it can't even accurately aim all of it. If I'm the big blast, I'd just go all in on having no ability to aim. I'm just gonna be spinning on my belly, firing off the whole shell, and if you get hit, it's your own fault. It's accumulated an inconvenient amount of mass. It's got the kind of mass that stops you from being able to function like a normal creature, like a bodybuilder who's had a sticker put on his back. Even in the base form, Blastoise has probably had the same itch on his back for like the past 20 years. Then you go and give it even more meat to spin around with. Looks left and right before crossing the street, has to move the same way a Hitmonlee does. But I would argue it's all worth it to become an actual dreadnought. Warship Blastoise. Your Butterfrees are exactly the kind of thing that should be getting the new forms, because it's finally got something going for it. Beedrill definitely got the better exchange of the two, but with that design buff up alone, I'm not complaining. Went from looking like a winged Wikiberry to this prized specimen. It even makes tornadoes that can blow away a 10-ton truck. Whoa! Oh, I'm pretty sure Hariyama can well, one bang those. Jesus, imagine the mayhem a Gmax Hariyama would be getting up to at that rate. The dude's already Gmaxed up. Got more cake in them thighs than Alcremie. With everything else the Pokedex has said about the Giants, 10 tons? Yeah, that's not a huge one. It's a good thing you got looks, kid, cause got what else going for you. But a freaking gust off like 0.0001% of Sandaconda's calling bag. The UFO Orbeetle is just the right amount of over the top for Gigante Pokemon. This would fully be the main bit of plot for a Jimmy Neutron episode. He's tired of helping Sheen do his maths homework, so he tries to make a ladybug he found in his back garden intelligent enough to sort it out for him. But by the end of the episode, it's a giant UFO controlling everyone in Retroville, and there's a gap in my head for the events leading up to it getting that powerful. All I know, it's somehow Hugh's fault, alright? He's always a menace, it's always him. The B-plot is Carl getting upset because llamas across the town keep getting abducted by the UFO insect. And no one believes him though, nobody would believe him. Turns him into a complete conspiracy nut. That's his gimmick for the episode. Classic QAnon Carl. The amount of milk tanks that must go missing from this thing. Got that thick neck thirst. What a sweet calcium needed to fuel up the biggest brain in all the land. Doesn't even need to go on the hunt. Could control the minds of every living being in its vicinity to do the hunting for it. Just bring them all in. I think the base Orbeetle is decent, but this is a big improvement right here. It's an earth-doming UFO coming off a base form that looks like a last-minute replacement if they couldn't get the rights to use Neocortex as a villain in Crash Bandicoot Country Returns. I think I said something like this in the first video, but Charizard being overexposed, getting all these forms and attention, it's things like this where I get it. The priority over the other two Kanto starters it gets, it's a bit weird, but aside from that, I get it. Even gets a bit of that Game Freak priority over some of the other Gmaxes, it seems.
The flames in his body burn at 3,600 degrees.
Nah, they're just adding Centiskorch there. Literally half the heat Charizard is packing. Game Freak showed Charizard Centiskorch's Pokedex entries for approval. He's like, that doesn't work for me, brother. Lizardon always goes over. But God Lizardon, banger. Even though in the grand scheme of things, everyone knows base Charizard is fairly mid when it comes to the pocket friend fisticuffs. And this form comes along, it makes you forget about that. It actually makes Leon look like the most lethal trainer going. This is the kind of holographic centerpiece mon that makes you look like the world champion. Gengar's another Charizard case. If those eyes and smile fit on any product, then that product is just lactating to be monetized. But again, when you have forms like this, man, you can milk that chunky ghost for all it's worth, because whatever they seem to do with it always bangs. A lot of these forms canonically have a body count, or at least it's heavily implied. But Gengar, Nah, Gengar was never trying to fool you. No allegedly about it. Base form Gengar was already hobbling about consuming your life fluids. Humans may as well come with a Capri Sun straw poorly glued to the back of their heads once Gengar sets those incredibly marketable eyes on them. The Gmax form just goes and turbo fuels its ability to scran souls.
If you stand in front of its mouth, your brain is smooth.
No, it says you'll hear loved ones' voices. Nah. Inteleon might be literally gunning to beat Gengar's body count, but your man has to realize, Gengar is the body count. The afterlife is right there. Even lays traps around so you can join him. The little goof. Oh, what's he like? He's just having the crack with you, you know what I mean? Gengar leaving around rare candies hiding behind a tree with an anvil tied to a piece of rope waiting for you. Doing little Ed Netty schemes to scam you out of your life points. Oh, what's he like? The little gang. In a list with an Iron Cyclops, Toxtricity is still the most metal Pokemon going. Poison infecting its brain, roaming about, contaminating the land, wielding the lightning guitar. At the end of a gig, Toxtricity does the guitar smash, takes the crowd out with him. I respect the hustle. That way, you always headline the show. It makes sure that the venue always puts you on last, so the crowd hasn't already been wiped out for the rest of the bands, turning the best Gala boys into a damn radio tower. If Toxtricity weren't such a menace, Team Rocket probably would have tried to hijack him by now. He definitely, exclusively played bangers too. Obviously, the most metal Pokemon going. King-sized Toxtricity.